Namato Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening. So today is Monday the 6th of July 2020. This is Achan Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. And as usual, I'm here with you today. And hi everyone. Thank you everyone for listening and following. Hi Margaret, Karina, Kanin, and everyone. So today is another day, this Monday, and since it's been 3 days that having weather is really miserable, suddenly you will get the sunshine and suddenly the wind blows and rain falls down. So one day you can experience 3 different weathers in Scotland. It's been 3 days like that. And obviously the weather is very unpredictable here in Aberdeen or in Scotland, and the weather can change at any moment, at any time. There is no fix. There's only speculation that tomorrow or next time there will be a rain, or there will be a wind, and there will be sunshine. These are some of the speculations there is possibility of happening. And these expectations or speculations or the possibility are again based on the data and that they have collected. On the data that we have collected, on the basis of that, there will be a predictions that in that way, because of this direction these winds are blowing, and with the result of that wind or this cloud, there will be this wind and there will be a rain. And yet there are a high probability, or there's a possibility of not rain, or even not windy. So there is very uncertainty of the knowledge that is based on the datas. And I was told that some of my friends, those who are in a investment business or the stock market business, they advised me saying that if you want to invest in the stock market, buying the shares, you have to look at their previous histories, that how they have been doing, how their company is doing, and on the basis of that, they're looking at the fluctuation of their assets and their income and expenditure, and then looking at how stable they are in the near future. So once you have studied and those histories based on the previous datas, you would invest. So you know that there is a possibility of increase of your shares, and you will gain a lot of benefit. And again, there is possibilities of not getting what you wished for due to the certain changes. There are possibility of a change, like there are plenty, there are significant number of companies are collapsed and bankrupt, registered or bankrupt, declared bankrupt since the day this coronavirus came. And since the corona, these companies again had to declare as a bankrupt. And with that bankruptcy, again, if you have any business to do with it, you also fall into that category too. So that's why there is a possibility, despite of you having a data, the sufficient data, the failure is always there. But the past memories and the past data are so important that helps us to understand what's going on. That's why there is a saying that if you want to know now how you are doing, look at the past, that what have you done in the past. Because now is simply the result of the past, what you have done, what we have done in the past. And again, if you want to know in the future, and basically know that what you are doing now. And the action that we do now defines the future. So basically, the investment that we invest in the stock market at this time is simply for the future security. And that's, I mentioned yesterday, I laid down the background or give you a knowledge. They saying that there are 3 ways to get the knowledge. First 2 initial knowledges are simply to be in this world and how we spend time, and that based on the study and listening and investigation about the things out there. Whereas the Buddhism is simply talking about internalize, knowing inside ourselves. And here, what we can see that understanding the past helps us to understand the situation now, what we are doing, how we are happening, and how we are. And whatever we do now, that defines the future. I'm telling this simply in order to give you a understanding of that, how Buddha found or discovered this Four Noble Truth, which is the fundamental teachings of the Buddha, and also based on this Four Noble Truth, whole Buddhism was introduced, and we are studying the Buddhism. And over this 2,600 years of a Buddhist dispensation, still been debating this Four Noble Truth, still studying this Four Noble Truth, what these Four Noble Truths are, and how can we fully understand and be liberated. So, this is, if we understand the past, what we have done, and what's happening now, and what will be, and that definitely now help us to understand the Four Noble Truth very clearly. Four Noble Truth basically means there is a problem, and there is a cause for the problem, and this problem can be ended, and there is a way to end the problem. And now, how do we know that this is a problem? There are so many other science, and one of the science is known as what's called astrology. Astrology. Looking at your birth, date of birth, looking at your so-called your complexion, and predicting that this is going to be in this way or that way. Speculation People will be speculating on the basis of your date of birth, your name, your complexion, your face, your palm, or so-called palmistry. And this is also one of the science available even now. Doesn't matter how advanced in terms of the empirical science is, but still there are plenty of people talks about this the science. And that is the reason why people talk about, how can I be lucky? And that's the reason why people want to see some of the sages who can predict and who can understand your mind, or who can understand some sort of a magic spells they have. And Buddhism is not denying that doesn't exist. Buddhism said that does exist, but that's a half true, not the full truth. That's the half true, because they are telling us on the basis of the previous data that we have accumulated throughout the time, and the complexion and palmistry, the palms, and the appearance of ourselves. Buddha said it is the result of what we have in the past, what we have done in the past. So that's why the palms and this complexion, the eyes and this forehead and these ears, and these are projecting or illustrating our previous karmas. So that's why this science is still there. We cannot deny for that. So Buddha also said that exists, but we shouldn't take it as the abstract. We can take it as the data that we have accumulated. And now this is the time that if anything that's we do not understand, if anything that is we have to change, then we better change. And that changing happens here and now. So that's why there is a saying that past is gone. We cannot undo. Then why worry? Yeah? Past is already learned, past is already studied, and that was a lesson. And we have learned. And why worry about that? And similarly, the future yet to come, why worry too? Because future is based on now, what you do now. Yeah? So the Buddha is simply saying that it is not the important that the past, what we have done, what we have been doing, but also not about the future. What we need to be mindful of is what we are doing now. That defines. And that is the moment. So the Buddha simply means knowing the present moment here and now. The day when the Buddha was enlightened. So Buddha left the palace at the age of 29, left this luxurious life, princely life, and went on to be a monk, an ascetic. And after 6 months of a great austerity, practicing the austerity practices, and went on practicing, finally he had to give up all the knowledge he acquired. He had to give up every possible ways that he had studied for the liberation. And then he meditated under the Bodhi tree, and he was become the Buddha. So on that night, the day when he became the Buddha, first knowledge he acquired was the previous births. It's called Pubbē Nivāsānussati Jnana. So previous births. And here, not just the previous simple births, he realized. He was able to understand that in those lives, what was his name, what was his parents' name, which village he was, and also he was able to know that what he had done in that life, and that took him to the next, and how that was working. So affecting. So he was able to see the cause and effect in those lives. And he was also able to see that what he did and what he received. So it's like we have studied all the history of one company's previous data, and then knowing what is happening. So he was able to know hundreds and thousands of his previous lives, and on the basis of that he was able to pinpoint that in each and every lives why he was getting suffering, why he was getting these kinds of problems, why he was getting such and such troubles in this life, and what was the reason for that. So through that he was able to pinpoint the problem and the cause of the problem, and with that he was fully understood. He was able to understood that all the past data is about his own previous lives. So on the basis of that he was able to know that how human beings are reborning or continuing in another births, and which realms they're born, and which state of human nature or animal nature or any other beings. So he was able to understand. It's basically he was able to like some sort of a God figure who knows that, okay, because of this and now he is this. So Buddha called it, this concept is called the housemaker, gahakaraka, housemaker. And this he was looking for. The one who is making was looking for the Buddha. So that's why gahakaraka ditthosi punake hang nakahasi. So he was looking for this, the house builder for eons and eons or life after life, and he was able to understand that. So that's the second knowledge he acquired, was Chuchupadayana, understanding that how beings are reborning in next lives, and what is the reason or what is the cause making them to reborn in such and such place, in such and such state. There are so many different discourses Buddha spoke about it. In the Chulakama Vibhanga Sutta, Tanakaya Sutta, and Kama Vibhanga Sutta, and these are the suttas, talks about and how we become in this state of life. Someone are very intelligent, someone are not. Someone are very ugly, someone are not. Someone are very fast learners and someone are not, like that. So different state of the temperaments and different qualities of the mindset that we have got, he was able to understand. So now there's two, you can see the cause and effect here. So based on the past memories, based on the past data, he was able to comprehend the future, what's going to be. So that's why Buddha's whole teachings, Buddha is saying that we are suffering, we are experiencing this trouble, we are experiencing this suffering is simply because what we have accumulated in the past. And this suffering needs to be understood properly. And the very moment when we understand this suffering in its true nature, then that is the flipping the point. And that understanding suffering is not that we can go back or undo those things and I wish I cannot, I wish I should have chosen that path or this path. So that's why the Buddha's teachings, the realization happens in this very moment, and the very moment when we are here, why we are suffering, why we are having this problem, and simply we will be able to understand the cause of it. So the whole Buddha's teachings is based on in the present moment, here and now. Although he talks about the past, although he talks about the future to be, let's say, all our past karmas or perfections and accumulation of the merits, and simply on the basis of that we are now here. And he also gave us a hope that there is a liberation from this suffering, there is a liberation from these problems, and all what we have to do is to change the behavior here and now, this very moment, by understanding the suffering. And this particularly, the suffering itself, okay, it's not about the physical suffering alone, it's not about the mental suffering alone. There's a both. So we become a miserable the day when we born. That's why Buddha called jati dukkha. Even the birth is dukkha, because we have taken the birth, so that had happened in the present moment. So birth is the beginning of the suffering in this life, and yet we enjoy. When we're born, that's why nurse or parents will hit us until we cry. The very moment when we cry, whole family will enjoy. Yeah, everyone feel happy that now this baby is alive. This baby is come alive. So it's already suffering. And then further on, Buddha says that getting old is a suffering. The very moment when we're born, we start to get old. Vyadhipi dukkha, and getting sick is also suffering. Maranampi dukkham, getting, have to die, also suffering. What is not, not happening as we want, that's also suffering. Association with a disliked person is also suffering. Association with a association with a disliked person, suffering. Disassociation with a liked person, suffering. And all, in a summary, Buddha talked, saying that attachment to this form, this body and the mind is in a summary, is the suffering. And now, to free ourselves from the suffering is not like a searching from outside or searching from outdoor and investigating in a lab, like cutting into pieces after pieces, and then this is not that, this is not that. With that, we will get only the external investigative knowledge that I mentioned yesterday, called Chintamaya Panya. And that won't help us to liberate. And whereas here, the understanding of this present moment, this body and the mind, helps us to be liberated in the future. At least we can get rid of the concept of me and a mind and attachment to it. And there is a saying that the more we get older, we become more attached to ourselves. So those who are listening, you can judge yourself whether is it true or not. Right? So the Four Noble Truth begins once we have understood the past, once we have understood this future, and importantly understanding the present moment, why I am here, why I am experiencing this. And this is the reality. It is not the concept, it is not the dogma. It is a reality that we are suffering. And that's what Buddha was talking about. And in order to understand this, that's why, if we have understood today or now is basically based on the previous then the whole four noble truth becomes so relevant and so practical. And all what we need is to understand the path, the fourth noble truth called the Maca. And this Maca is the part of the Buddha's practice. So we can practice that and go on to understand the true realization, the Dhamma. When I was young, very young, and in Nepal, we used to have so-called the traditional and traditional way of dealing, and they will do certain rituals, like those rituals, and after they have done these rituals, they will tell you that you have got this disease, that disease, or they will tell you to go and pay respect to this tree or that tree, or to that river, or make these little signs to free your any misfortunes may occur in the future. And again, they do understand that, they do realize that memory, that information, because it's been collected in our memories through the palms, through the face, through the complexion. And it is true that, that's half of true. And once we are told we should be changing our behavior towards the good, and reflecting and changing, and that changing happens here and now in this very moment. So why we are having suffering? Because of those and that in this. And now if we change a way of life, like obesity, why we are getting fat? Yeah. Particularly this time of this corona time, everyone is talking about getting fat. Someone, this morning again, one family came to visit and then told me that they have cut down all the sugars, all the fatty food, all these frying things, simply to reduce the fat. So like that. Because we know the cause of this fatty, and we will be simply changing our behavior. And with that changing behavior, we become more conscious about health and conscious about how to keep fit. And that's same the teachings of the Buddha too. Whatever we are now is simply based on the past, and whatever you want to be in the future, you have to change now. And that changing now change the destiny. That's why Buddha called your destiny is in your hands. All what you need is to change the destiny, change your behavior now, change action now. And that's how we will be able to understand this whole spectrum of this Four Noble Truth. And end, as the Buddha said, there is a hope for the freedom by realizing this Four Noble Truth. The very moment when we fully understood the Four Noble Truth, we will be liberated, never to be born, never to be die, never to be get old, and never to be sick. Unborn, unconditioned, that state, which is the Nibbana, we will be able to attain. So, I offer this as a tonight's reflection. In few minutes' time, we will have chanting and guided meditation. You're most welcome to join with us. If not, then see you tomorrow for the talk at 6:30. Until then, good night and see you shortly. Thank you. Thank you everyone for listening. May the Buddha bless you.